This white dude for Harris actually inspired me to go to the gym because he's such a disgrace. Sometimes you just look at a person and you know, yeah, I know you're voting for Kamala because you already deny reality on every other level of existence. And I'm not actually trying to insult the guy, I'm just trying to observe a pattern. Every single person that humiliates himself in front of Charlie Kirk is physically as well as mentally deformed because they go together. Seeking the highest form of oneself requires aiming upward, and in order to aim upward, you have to be able to distinguish between better and worse ways of existence that are, when you trace it all the way back to its origin, reflective of reality. But the problem is, for leftists, their ideology, postmodern neo-Marxism, says that reality is an oppressive construct and is emblematic of the patriarchy and other corrupt forces rather than nature itself. And so they're always denying reality, always lying to themselves. This is also the reason why they're miserable, anxious, depressed, labeling themselves depressed all the time. Because as a leftist, you have to deny reality, which brings you out of congruence with truth. I studied music theory to a fourth-year conservatory level, and what I'm describing here is very similar to the tritone, or what my renowned music theoretician teacher told me, which is called the devil tone. It's an augmented fourth. Whereas a perfect fourth is one of the harmonies that the human ear loves to hear because it's beautiful. But you raise up the perfect fourth by just a half step, let's say from G to G sharp, and all of a sudden it's one of the most painful and uncomfortable tones you can hear. These leftists have pushed themselves out of harmony with reality because their ideology actually commands them to demonize reality itself.
Kamala because of the child tax credit and because of
Really?
Yeah.
You know the one that Trump had in his tax cut?
No, I know. It's a good thing though. I agree with it both.
Yeah. So, and do you think that Kamala would manage the economy well?
Yeah.
Why hasn't she done it the last 3.5 years?
Yeah, you see it right there. So, would Kamala manage the economy well? Yes. So, why is the economy the worst it's been in almost the entire history of the country? What are you doing asking me a question like that? Accountability is oppression because it references objective order.
She's the vice president. Are we gonna
right.
act like the vice president is managing the economy?
Do you think Joe Biden's running the economy right now?
I think the White House senior staff.
Hold on a second. If Kamala,
It's so funny. It's so funny that the left is now openly admitting that the president is incompetent and other people are running the government when only months ago they were like, he's the best way we can save democracy. Everyone vote for Biden. Literally months ago. And then all of a sudden, the mainstream propaganda arm shifted and they still want to act as though they're not the party of the establishment when the majority of the billionaires are backing them, all of Hollywood's backing them, all the celebrities, all of the mainstream media, even the tech companies. When I type in Donald Trump podcast, the first thing that comes up is Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes when Trump just went on flagrant and got millions of views in under 24 hours. Despite all of that, these people still want to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, we support the little guy.
Kamala Harris wanted to run the country. She could. How did Kamala Harris do with running the border?
Oh, this is going to be great because here you really couldn't construct a more intellectually high stakes opportunity for a leftist to say the opposite of the truth and therefore prove that they are commanded to do war with reality, therefore inviting the question, what process requires them to do warfare with reality? So I can almost guarantee that he's either not going to answer the question or he's going to say she did a good job with the border when she is literally the border czar and 21 illegal immigrants have come across the border in the last 3.5 years, 13,099 of them being convicted murderers in the country that they're coming from.
Again,
How many illegals have come in under her watch? Can you guess?
7 million.
I obviously don't know the number off the top of my head.
It's 10 million people. Is that a success?
It's way higher. It's way higher.
I don't think the border wall would be any more of a success.
Well, hold on. Under Trump...
Right, because there's no difference between having a border and not having a border. Having category, not having category. Right versus wrong. Fat versus in shape. Harmonic, tritone.
Border crossings were at an all-time low. Kamala Harris, 10 million people have illegally come to this country, which is more than the population of New Jersey. Why does she deserve to be a president when she can't even manage the border?
Why? Okay, so...
I want you to really understand that these questions are alien to them because they never ask themselves these questions. And as a matter of fact, questions are sort of an inconvenient foreign language. All that they require is adherence to the cult, adherence to identitarianism. That's probably why this guy is so demoralized to the point where he's in physically bad shape and it looks like he doesn't get any sleep. Because as a white man, he's at the bottom of the totem pole. His ideas will definitely never matter, no matter how good they are as far as the left is concerned. And you think I'm joking, but this is actually how they organize their environments.
The bill that Biden and Harris put in to increase the border patrol.
Don't. 1 second, please. No, it's not about the bill. You can do this all by executive order. Remain in Mexico.
Dude, these people are so deformed, and yet they actually think that they're heroes. They actually think they're virtuous with having no evidence for that because the ideology of the left lies to them so ferociously. In many ways, it's one of the most perverse systems you could ever construct because what it says is if you demonize the right people, if you say the right people are bad, we'll call you a good person. When the people you're labeling as bad are actually the ones engaging in logic, reason, rationality, morality, and intellectual seriousness, and all you have to do is sacrifice your individual identity at the altar of our cult / ideology being postmodern neo-Marxism. That's why they let everything go. That's why they're physically unkept. That's why every single person that embarrasses themselves in front of Charlie Kirk is physically and mentally in shambles because they think they don't have to measure up to anything. Standards themselves are oppressive as far as they're concerned because reality is oppressive.
They've decided to empower the foreign. Kamala Harris has overseen the border. She failed. She oversaw the Russian-Ukrainian dispute
It's an objective fact.
Security Conference, and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians died. She was the deciding vote on the Inflation Explosion Act that makes everyone have to pay more in goods and services. Her first day was 3.5 years ago as VP. What has she done that has given you confidence she'll do a good job as president?
What's actually, and Elon said this in his historic conversation that I analyzed a couple days ago. But the left is not interested in regime change because they only believe in power disparities. Therefore, they are either in power or being oppressed. There's no such thing as virtue, merit, or truth. This is why they're trying to import votes by having an open border so that they can have one-party state and get rid of all swing states. So that every election resembles the elections in California, which are supermajority Democrat, and of course, California. We all know how California has been doing the last 4 years.
I mean, she inherited a bad COVID economy, and it's gotten better. It has. It's gotten better since the COVID. Yes, the economy is better since the end of COVID.
Prices are higher. People can't afford homes. 1.5 million people lost their jobs in the last year. You ask anybody in the economy.
Inflation as well, of course. But see, logic's not interesting to these people.
The American people agree with you, by the way. 75% of Americans disapprove of the economy right now.
Yeah.
But if she was so good, by the way, so she says, I'm going to do no tax on tips, stole it from Trump. Why doesn't she just tell the IRS to do that right now?
Right. She's been in there years.
I don't honestly know much about tax on tips and the IRS.
But let's just put all this aside.
Yeah.
Would you not agree that Trump's presidency was objectively better than Joe Biden's?
I would not agree on that. What did
How
Trump
do you judge
do that you like?
The word objective is enraging. The word objective automatically means wrong side because only one side uses the word objective because only one side thinks in objective terms. That would be us. To them, objectivity itself is a predatory, discriminatory, corrupt construct. It sounds absurd, but that's actually the demands their ideology makes on its constituents. And why the most radical elements in the left are all mentally ill, psychopathic, or very low IQ feminine personalities. Because it takes a very specific type of person to buy into a system that fraudulent.
Border crossings all-time low. No new wars. You agree with that, right? No new wars?
He didn't pull out of Afghanistan, which he promised to do.
Hold on a second. No new wars.
He continued a war, though.
Dude, it's crazy that the left would bring out the pullout of Afghanistan when it was one of the biggest disgraces of their entire regime. The pullout of Afghanistan, in and of itself, should be disqualifying to any thinking person in terms of voting for the party that did that.
War.
The war in Afghanistan.
How many Americans died in Afghanistan under Trump?
He didn't pull out troops, though. He promised.
Yes, he did. He was winding it down. No new wars under Trump. The economy under Donald Trump. If you guys want to buy a home in your life, when Trump was president, please let me talk, man. Jeez. When Trump was president, you required $75,000 a year to be able to own a home. It now requires $120,000 a year to buy a home under Harris and Biden. $50,000 more a year. So if you guys want to buy a home, you have to make $120,000 a year now, thanks to Kamala Harris.
Guys, how much did it cost the last day of Trump's presidency, though?
$75,000 a year.
The last day of his presidency?
Yes.
During the height of COVID,
Yes.
it cost $75,000
Yes.
to buy a home?
Yes.
All right.
And gas was $2.
She's a millionaire.
And so I'm getting at this outside of vibes and Trump hatred. What has this woman done to earn anybody's vote? She won't take questions from the press. She didn't get a single
Questions are discrimination. Questions are masculine as they reflect reality.
vote from Democrat primary voters. She was installed by some sort of Zoom conference vote. Like, who is this person? Like, why should, did she earn any votes? Like, how did she get here?
I mean, the vice president, or she was the vice president. He dropped out, and she was on the ticket. That's my best guess of why she is.
Looking at this, does that give you confidence that this person should be president?
I'm fine with her experience. I think she has a lot of experience for the office. Yeah, I don't think you can argue that she doesn't.
I mean, we already went to the border, but just like, you got to give me something, or the audience, like, make the case. Like, we're here in a battleground state, Wisconsin. Like, show me the case. I'll give you the case.
They don't need a case. Of course, that's why they're going to lose. But the left is so intellectually corrupt, they don't think they have to make a case. If you're not a part of their cult, which doesn't rely on ideas in the first place, you're a bad person. If you're a bad person, anything you say doesn't have to be contended with. And as a matter of fact, you yourself don't have to be contended with because you're a less than status person. You're an other. This is actually how the left operates while they pretend to be inclusive and compassionate. They are the most discriminatory and totally bankrupt. They install judges, they create policy to discriminate against people based on skin color and gender. For the left right now, a qualifying factor to run for office is if you're going to discriminate against people based on race and gender, literally speaking.
Trump was president for 4 years. People were richer, world was safer, border was secure. Things were going really, really well. We respect our own. Kamala Harris, like, what's the thing? What's the sales pitch? Outside of vibes and Brat Summer, like, what is the pitch?
I mean, abortion's a big one. We're going to disagree on it, but I think it should be.
Okay, let's say you're right on abortion.
Yeah.
Okay, where is that the most important civilizational issue? While we're on
it's pretty important to a lot of people.
So just let me understand. So Donald Trump says leave it to the states. How would that impact Wisconsin?
So Wisconsin is this extremely gerrymandered state. Most of our statewide elected officials are Democrats, and our state legislature is almost a supermajority of Republicans. It's not reflective of what the state actually wants. And the law we're defaulting to is from 1849, I think. So it's left to the states, but we're not going to pass any new. We're going to default to 1849.
Now, isn't there a ballot referendum around it? It's on the ballot, right? Yeah, I was going to say, Wisconsin just legalized abortion. So how would Trump even interfere with your abortion plans?
I don't think I think it's by appointing pro-life judges to circuit courts and things like that. That's the main way.
Okay, so the case for Kamala is that Donald Trump might appoint court judges.
He's going to appoint worse judges. That's one of the most important parts of the presidency.
Does it bother you that she does not take questions from the press? I've been here for 3 hours. She will not take 5 minutes of questions. Does that bother you for a president?
I haven't watched her on the press a lot, so...
Because you wouldn't be able to watch her on the press, because she doesn't talk to the press.
Yeah.
Last question. I'm sorry to keep you here.
Yeah.
Is there anything that she could do that would make you not vote for her?
These people are zombies.
Yeah, I think if she
violated the cult, if she said she was no longer a part of the group that gave counterfeit virtue to the most depraved, immoral, incoherent, wretched sect of the population possible.
Yeah. Reversed a lot of her positions from the Democratic Party and moved more to the center.
So like saying that she's for fracking when she was against fracking?
Or
saying that she was like...
Oh yeah, like when she did reverse all of her decisions.
Against the electric vehicle mandate when she was for the electric vehicle mandate?
I'm talking about issues that I care about more than fracking. Like abortion and like gun control.
Okay, got it. So this is so interesting, and I'm glad we have clarity in that agreement.
Yeah.
I think preventing World War III and making sure Americans can own homes and having a robust economy not being invaded is far more important than the ability to unborn children, but we'll agree to disagree. Thank you.
That's where we end it, sure.
Okay, I just want to start with, I heard earlier in this section that you were talking about how Pfizer and Moderna pushed the vaccines on people, am I correct?
Objectively, that is what happened.
So I wanted to talk about how you're a big advocate for having a choice as Americans to get the vaccine, which I completely agree with. But also at the same time, you also advocate for women not to have the freedom to choose what they do with their bodies, as well as the LGBTQ people, they shouldn't have freedom to do what they want or what they're.
This is actually how mentally incapable the left is. Conflating issues for them is almost an inevitability, given that they can't distinguish between complex topics. In order to tell the difference between vaccines and the complex debate which is abortion, which of course in the final analysis after you go through the details isn't complex, you shouldn't murder babies, but the overall analysis can be complex. In order to even know what you're talking about, you have to use logic, you have to use rationality. These are tools, these are mechanisms that allow you to zoom in, understand, and verify intrinsic presuppositions of ideas and complex topics. The left can't do any of that. That is all behind a firewall. It's behind a locked door that they can never unlock because they demonize those tools of logic, reason, and rationality as untenable manifestations of the patriarchy that the patriarchy presented as constructs to control and oppress women. It sounds like a bizarre fever dream fairy tale. That's actually what they think. But because this is the false story they tell themselves, they can't tell the difference between these topics, just as they can't understand these topics, and so they repeat slogans, which by the way translates to battle cry of the dead. Slogans translates to battle cry of the dead, which is very bizarre when you realize that all the left has is slogans. So of course, when you're a leftist, you can say things like, if you have this position on abortion, why do you have this position on vaccines? Like completely different conceptual universes. Because both are related to freedom, right? I mean, it's like Neanderthal level thinking.
Fighting for equal rights.
Okay, so if it's not your DNA, it's not your choice. Do you agree with that?
See, what Charlie has to do now is engage in the ABCs of one of the topics, basically walking this guy through what he should already have been able to do using logic and reason, those mechanisms that I referenced earlier. It's so fundamental, but they're not even practiced in doing even this. You know? It's crazy.
I would partially agree. I mean, I do agree, but
So
in
you
this
have
situation,
sovereignty over your DNA.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so when there's another DNA inside of you,
Dude, you see how that presupposition invalidates what he just said in and of itself? There's like 15 other ways to do it. No, more like 150 other ways. But just what Charlie said in under 10 seconds invalidated this false dichotomy he put forward.
have sovereignty over that DNA.
It is a part of the woman that.
Well, it's also part of the man, so it's new DNA though.
Yeah, but it's attached to the woman. That's what I'm saying.
It's attached, but it's not her.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, if you think about it, like
He just acknowledged the presupposition that it's attached but not her, so he's already lost.
like theoretically, it's like a parasite. It's attached to your body.
A baby's a parasite?
See, they only have slogans. They only have slogans like her body, freedom, parasite, feet. Like they don't understand any of the intrinsic ideas, because intrinsic ideas reflect reality, which they are at war with because they demonize as oppressive, patriarchal, and masculine, and corrupt or whatever.
It's a fetus. It's a lump of cells in the woman's.
We're all lumps of cells.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
So,
but
what you're trying to do is you're using dehumanizing language. You clump of cells.
That's not what I'm trying to do.
Parasite,
I'm
but
sorry
you are.
about
No, it's
that.
okay.
That's
Just
not-
this is typical.
It's actually not okay. That is what he's doing, though. Charlie's right.
Typical abortion language,
Okay.
which is try to make the baby seem that it's not a baby, because the word baby gets
Because they know that what they're doing is objectively wrong.
people animated. Because if we
But the left has been sacrificing kids on the altar of their anti-reality worship for centuries. Oh, that's going to anger some people.
called it a baby, all of a sudden we wouldn't abort it. But it is a
Okay.
baby. By every characteristic, it's a baby. So I guess the question in front of us is, with the vaccine question, you have sovereignty over your DNA.
yeah, absolutely.
As soon as there's new DNA that is not your own deoxyribonucleic acid, you do not have sovereignty over that DNA. It is a temporary visitor in your own DNA, but it's not your DNA. It's its own human being.
Okay.
Like, I don't have sovereignty over you. You
Absolutely
don't have
not.
sovereignty over me. Your mom right now is not allowed to come back to campus and kill you.
yeah, that's not the point though.
No,
It's
but think about it.
That is
because
actually the point.
you guys
it's
are
the-
different. So
it's
we
the
wouldn't
choice of an.
But your mom doesn't remain in control of you for the rest of your
No,
life.
yeah, absolutely not.
Because you're separate DNA. And it just so happens that it's temporarily housed within, not that it is you.
Okay.
So no one's contesting that women do not have autonomy over their own being. The point is, what about the being that also has autonomy that you are forsaking in the woman? Because that baby has rights too.
Well, you can't like ask the fetus the question, right? It should come down to.
What would happen if leftists thought about their positions logically for even 10 seconds before saying things? I wonder what type of world that would be. Man. So under this new false dichotomy he just spouted for no reason, old, blind, deaf, or mute people, or people without functioning cognitive faculties, are not deserving of life.
But you,
The woman that's carrying
I
the
can't
child,
ask my
right?
6-month-old a question. 'cause
Absolutely
understand-
not, yeah.
So just being able to reason with a being does not mean that the being doesn't have rights.
But
correct?
what about when it comes to the safety of the mother that's carrying the child?
So in what circumstance? So you're saying, so if the mom's
So
life,
what he just did is he went from 99.9% of cases to 0.1% of cases and acted as though it's equivalent. See, this is the intellectual despair of the left. Inability to contend with objective frameworks, and of course no grasp of statistical distributions or category whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they deny the classifications of right and wrong, so I really shouldn't be too picky and suggest that they understand statistical distributions. But he just went from 99.9% of cases to 0.1% of cases as if it's equivalent, when it's not.
is at risk. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
absolutely.
Incredibly rare, unusual.
Yeah,
Try to
I agree
perform a
with that.
cesarean section.
Guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of you watching. We are on the way up, and I'm not going to stop.